Excited to get back on the court Saturday. Anytime you have one of these bye weeks, you're always kind of itching to get back out there for games. Guys have done a good job on the practice court, and now we've got two really important days to prepare for St. John's. Today's practice, film session, making sure we get connected on what we did well last time against them and what we did not do well and what they did against us. They're obviously a highly capable team, talented team that presents a heck of a inside-outside threat on their offensive end, heck of a rebounding threat. And then for us on our offensive end, St. John's does a heck of a job changing defenses. I think Danis Jenkins is as good of a defensive player as there is, and they do a good job throwing a lot of different guys at you, a lot of different looks at you. So excited. National Marquette Day, 5 o'clock, Fiserv Forum. There's nowhere we'd rather be. Job's continuing to mature, continuing to grow. You know, when he first got here, I remember talking to his high school coach, Coach Wandry at Brookfield Central. And he said, listen, each year Job will get better. Each year he'll gain confidence, and he'll give you a little bit more of him. And we're seeing that on both ends of the floor. He obviously, if you had to ask him which end that he enjoys the most, that would be a silly question. But, you know, we've explained to him, hey, we really need you on our defensive end. Your activity is important. Your rebounding is important. You're going to be guarding a big-time scorer from the other team a lot of the time. And I think that he's continuing to grow. At the same time, there's a few more notches that he can take this season. I'm not even talking about the long-term future. And so we are on him daily about that. In fact, he and I, sat down this week and watched a bunch of tape, some defensive clips, some offensive clips off the ball. When he gets the ball, that's not the issue. He knows a lot more than me about scoring the basketball. But off the ball, on both ends of the floor, we want to continue pushing him forward. And he's been really receptive, which is the most important thing.
Not just his defense. I've noticed some of the assist numbers in the past few games. He's passing the ball, getting it around to a lot of people. How does that unlock another layer of your offense that you previously maybe not have had?
Well, we say passing is the number one EGB. So that applies. If something applies to the team, then it applies to an individual player on the team. And I think that is obvious, but there's a lot of guys who play the game that maybe think, well, that stuff applies to someone else. And maybe that's true on their teams. But on our team, if we say passing really, really matters, then that applies to Job, that applies to Cam, that applies to everyone, not just Tyler and Oso. And Job, he has a very good IQ for the game. And so if you got a guy on you and then there's another guy running at you, then you got a teammate open and you have a responsibility to make the right pass. And I think he's improving with that.
I wanted to ask you about your defense as well. How did you arrive at the goal of 32 deflections a game? Is it maybe half of the possessions that you're going for, or how did you get, and do you tweak that number depending on your personnel?
No, we don't tweak the number. We thought about it. We talked about it because last year we averaged over 32 deflections. So we said, hey, maybe we should make it 35. But not exactly sure how we arrived at it. I think going back to when I was an assistant coach, doing a lot of research. You know, I used to be an analytics nerd in my former life. And, just kind of found that was a number that, depending on the pace of the game and the style of play, that would put us in a pretty good position. So we've kept track of it ever since I've been a head coach at VCU, at Texas, now here at Marquette. And I think we've lost maybe 2 or 3 games over the course of that time when we've had 32 deflections, and we've won close to 200. So it's a good formula.
In one of your recent press conferences, though, you said this team, it's not about the athleticism or even the size. It has more to do with the anticipation and something else you said. Oh, good hands. How do you help with that as a coach? I mean, do you you have to give them some freedom to gamble a little bit or take some risks.
Absolutely.
Is it tons of preparation, or how would you?
No, it's a great point. So a huge concept for us on defense is what we call appropriate help. And that is basically, if you're off the ball, we want you to help your teammate that's got the ball as much as you absolutely should, no more and no less. That is a very, very complex concept that young players have a hard time with, and even some older players sometimes. Oso is probably the best at it. He just has a heck of a feel. And sometimes it is a real gamble. For example, we trap the post a lot. Anytime you're going to put two guys on the ball, on offense, we would say, great, we're going to throw it to the open man, and we're going to make you pay for that. So we've got to be really, really aggressive and assertive. And I'll tell you what's even more important and what comes before quick hands and before aggressiveness and before assertiveness, and that is connectivity. We have to be five guys connected around a common cause. We're playing to win the game. And so on defense, that means we're playing to stop the other team from scoring, because that's half of what goes into winning, stopping them from scoring, and then, of course, us scoring on the other end. And so we don't take for granted the fact that there may be a possession where, for whatever reason, there's one guy, two guys, three guys, that 1%, 2%, 3% of their mind gets away from that goal of a team stop. Well, that makes us worse. We have to be connected 1,000% around that common goal, and that's when we're at our best.
You guys have had 4 straight games where you've shot 44% or better on threes. When everyone was going through that shooting slump like a month ago, were you always confident that this kind of shooting performance would come back?
Man, I really don't pay as much attention. I didn't even know that. I don't pay as much attention to the specific numbers. Obviously, I see them game by game, but the three-point shot is the most volatile stat that there is in college basketball. You're going to have the exact same team go through a stretch where they shoot the ball really well, and then go through a stretch where maybe they even get the same shots. Now, the defense a lot of times has a lot to do with it, for sure. But maybe they get the same shots and they don't make the same percentage. And you know what's humbling about it is it's the most volatile stat. It also is one of the most important stats to winning. And so I remember in 2011 when we went to the Final Four, we won 5 games in the NCAA tournament, and we averaged 11 made threes per game. This was 2011, before people shot a million threes like they do now. And it's a good recipe for winning. It's not really a point of emphasis going into the game, hey, let's make 15 threes tomorrow in the game, because it's more about the process, creating the shots we want. I think one small thing that doesn't get emphasized enough on most teams, and I need to keep doing a better and better job emphasizing with our guys, is the passer makes the shooter. And so if over the course of our game, just 5 to 8 of our passes can be right on the money, hitting you in the chin, more so than maybe they would have been, maybe if they were a little low or a little high, that's going to improve our percentage over time. So we're more focused on that stuff as opposed to the raw data of, you know, what the numbers are over a series of games.
Is it just as simple, do you notice when your team is hitting at that clip on three-point range that it just opens more spacing for like the Oso and Tyler pick and rolls, and that's why your offense has been so good?
Well, it definitely puts the defense in a bind. I mean, and it's the same thing when we're on defense. You know, defensively, we're trying to keep teams from getting into the deep paint, and we're trying to keep them from shooting great looks from three. Well, if you were only doing one of those two things, it would be very easy. You could put 5 guys in the paint, defending the paint, and you could do a heck of a job keeping the ball out of there. Or you could take 5 guys and put them out on the three-point line, and you could do a heck of a job guarding out there. But you're trying to do both, and that's no different than most teams, I would imagine. And so, yes, when we have guys that get going from outside, it stretches the defense. Now you've got passers like Tyler and Oso, drivers like some of the guys we have, finishers like some of the guys we have, and it opens things up.
No one wants to see Sean get hurt, but have you noticed, like, Tyler's playing more? When Sean was playing, Tyler would be off the ball. Now he's probably more on the ball more. That's probably a strength. Is there something to that and why your offense has been so good for the last month?
I think our offense has continued to evolve. I think in terms of some of the finishing and shooting early in the year, we weren't quite where we knew we could get to. And so the goal, it's February 8th, is that we can continue to improve offensively with guys learning more and more how to play off of each other, the spacing, the cutting component of it, and then our young players and even our older players continuing to grow in their confidence and their execution of what we're asking them to do out there on the floor. Make no mistake about it, Sean Jones added to our team in a major way, offensively and defensively. So with him not being out there, that's a challenge for us. But certainly there are different lineups that are created by that. I think our young players, our freshmen, particularly Zayden Lowry and Trey Norman, have done a nice job stepping forward. Their numbers are not gaudy, but they've been contributors to winning on both ends of the floor. They've been really, really competitive in practice and in the games when they've gone in the game. They've come out there with, as Dre likes to say, vicious eyes. And you got to have that in these Big East games. You got no chance otherwise. And so that's given us better depth than we would have had if they weren't ready. And then Chase Rouse. Having him back is awesome. It makes such a difference. You can't really quantify his impact on our team. Between him and Stevie Mitchell, those two guys, they don't get enough credit because we have some other guys that maybe put the ball in the basket more. But those two guys, if you ask, okay, who really, really impacts winning beyond the numbers, they would be at the top of the list.
You mentioned the bye week. Do you kind of feel like that's like the turning point in the season right here, where you guys have National Marquette Day on Saturday and it's go time for the rest of the season?
It's been go time throughout. I think the bye week just gives you a couple extra days for guys that are banged up, guys that need a little bit of time, physically to recover. Gives you some extra practice time. We've been able to work on some things in practice that we definitely need reps on. But if you ask the players, they would rather play. They want to play. And so we don't make the schedule. We don't control that. Certainly from here, it'll be the typical 2 games each week. And, that will certainly present a lot of challenges, but it's exciting.
Can I ask one more? Back to the data and the data-driven. I should know this about you by now, about how much this dictates your coaching style, but I'm wondering if you ever dial it back a little bit, because these kids it's a very cerebral approach, right, to basketball. I can't imagine you talking like this with Doc Rivers, for example, about these kind of numbers. It's a different mentality. Do you ever back off and just say, don't worry about the number of deflections, or we need this right now? Do you ever, adjust that a little bit, or do you believe in it so much? This is who you are. This is the goal. Always try to aim for that goal.
Well, I think as Mark Twain said, there's lies, damned lies, and statistics. So I think, there's a perspective for everything. The ones that, for me, that I back off on more is the result-based statistics. So 44% or better from 3 the last 4 games. I didn't even know that because I know we've shot the ball well lately, but I'm more focused on, do we hit the guy in the chin with the pass? Are we shooting it the right way? Are we going to the glass when the shot goes up? Are we executing our screening actions to get the shot we want? And I do think with players, for sure, it's important for them to understand, man, if you will just follow the appropriate process, don't worry that the last game you went 2 for 10. Don't worry that the last 5 threes didn't go in. Just keep doing it the right way. And these guys, they work. They come in here with a really good level of basketball talent to begin with, and they're high character guys, so they really care. So I think sometimes it is important to give them some perspective. It's interesting, in the NBA, there's 82 regular season games, so those guys have a really good sense of, hey, you know, it's don't overreact. It's just been a few games where the ball's not gone in as much. For us, every game matters so much, and you know, our guys, they want to do so well that we just try to take some of the pressure off in that regard by focusing on the process.
You went to go see Demarcus and Royce yesterday. What stood out to you about those guys, how they've been playing since they've been playing together?
I love those guys. The first thing that stands out about them is their character. They will immediately step in here and fit in from a character and a cultural standpoint, how we act, interact, and respond. They're already really, really immersed in our way from a distance. In late May or early June, they'll get here and they'll be immersed in it as active participants, which is different. They're ahead on offense compared to where they are on defense. And so those two guys, I mean, Royce is an offensive savant, and Demarcus can do so many different things on that end of the floor, play different positions, shoot the ball, drive the ball, pass the ball. But those guys are going to have to learn what goes into defending at this level. And sometimes it's as simple as, okay, we're playing St. John's. They got Danis Jenkins, they got Soriano, they got Luis, they got Ledlam, they got Dingle. These are the 5 guys on the floor. And so which of those guys can you guard? Chase Ross, he can guard multiple guys. That's why you can put him out there and you can say, okay, Chase, we need you on this guy, or we need you on this guy. Or even it's a switch and a pick and roll and we need you to fight for 15 seconds on this 7-footer. He can do all that. So you can put him in the game. Demarcus and Royce right now could probably go in the game for us offensively. And those guys over the next several months are going to have to learn and improve and develop in the ways that will help them go in the game and play for us defensively. Because again, it's not football. You don't sub when you cross half court. And so you have to do both.